In 2021, at the Tower of Hercules, Miguel's Guinness World Record was not a media stunt but proof. Intellect without action is empty, and training without inner growth is shallow. When knowledge becomes muscle and will, it becomes truth, even when eclipsed by the system. Performed under the most rigorous technical requirements ever proposed of body weight pound per pound strength, Miguel's record still remains at least 6 times beyond anything ever historically recorded. Yet history is only one layer. The most meaningful victories remain unseen, born in silence and discipline. From that inner center, strength radiates as knowledge to anyone willing to live with courage. In that still point, we remember that strength and clarity are not trophies, but offerings returned to something greater than ourselves. Each of us is called to a heroic path. And even if you walk it alone, you can still follow the light of the beacon that ever lasts.
In this 2012 video, we see Max Schank, senior Russian kettlebell trainer, performing for Dragon Door a perfect 1 rep of this push-up modality.
So here we are, the one-arm push-up. The special form of push-up we're about to show you is very old, but is rarely seen in modern gyms. It's sometimes called the prison push-up because it's based on the kind of one-arm push-ups often found in jails and used by prison athletes up and down the land. You might see many athletes who can perform the conventional one-arm push-up with the feet splayed out, but the prison push-up is much, much harder because the legs and feet must be kept together. Most people don't realize just how difficult this technique is. Whereas 1 in 50 athletes can perform a conventional one-arm push-up correctly, less than 1 in 10,000 really own the prison-style one-arm push-up with the feet together.
Schank's 1 rep performance represents the ideal biomechanical example of this extremely challenging push-up. This exact form is the one I presented in my initial 2020 application. Schank is an athlete who, when performing this exercise in 2020, was ranked in Dragon Door as one of the 10 strongest and most powerful pound-per-pound athletes in bodyweight exercise in the world. And here, he complies perfectly well with all the rules defined in the specific guidelines pack of this modality. In this exercise, there are 2 effective contact points of the athlete with the ground. 2 points that define a perpendicular vertical plane on which the athlete's center of gravity must always be contained during a full repetition. Otherwise, any displacement of the body's center of gravity from such vertical plane generates a torque in relation to the axis defined by both contact points, a torque that without a third point of contact with the floor creates what in physics is referred to as an unstable equilibrium, irreversibly forcing the whole body to fall down. With 3 points of contact, as occurs in other push-up modalities, there is no chance of the operation of an unstable equilibrium. Due to this constriction, the athlete is forced to keep, during the entire cycle, his center of gravity in the fixed vertical plane, and the only biomechanical technique available for accomplishing this is by displacing exactly 1/2 of the body weight on one side of the plane and exactly the other half on the other side, so that the body's center of gravity remains contained in the vertical plane during a full repetition. If we now hypothesize that a human being could possibly comply with body must remain straight throughout, this hypothesis then implies necessarily in the lower positions, as we can clearly observe in this photo, an asymmetric distribution of the body's mass, that is to say, leverage in regard to the vertical plane defined by the 2 contact points with the ground, an asymmetry that necessarily entails that during the lower positions, the body's center of gravity wouldn't be contained in such plane, and consequently a torque would emerge by the body's center of gravity that irreversibly destabilizes the body balance, regardless of how strong is the athlete. To make these explanations clearer, the guy in this photo is about to let the chest and the torso touch the ground, while remaining straight throughout. But the photo I've employed for presenting this biomechanical analysis is fake and unrealistic, even by hypothesizing that the athlete was infinitely strong. If he aspired to not generate any destabilizing torque in the lower position, he would have to have considerably more artificial weight on the pressing arm than on the other, in order to compensate the unequal distribution of body mass in relation to the vertical plane, so that he could effectively produce a balancing counter torque.
Yes, the record is real, but the point isn't reps. It's the method. 20 years of engineering, discipline, and a refusal to worship vanity. Watch the feet. Tap to see the full story, then read the blueprint.